Yes.
Principal sir, shall we start, sir?
Madam.
Sir, shall we start, sir?
Start, madam.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Women's Development Cell, Muthuraman Government Arts College, Vellore, it's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you all for this webinar. Your presence makes us very happy.
Ready up,
I invite our principal, Professor S. Marimuthu sir, to give your inaugural address.
Okay. Are you able to hear me, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You proceed,
Okay. Hello. Good afternoon to everybody. I am S. Marimuthu, principal in charge, Muthurangam Government Arts College, Vellore. It is my duty to give the felicitation address to the webinar titled on gender sensitization of young minds in an evolving society. The program convener is Dr. Dr. T.K. Ganga, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, Muthuram Government Arts College, Vellore, and the resource person is Dr. Sunida Samarasam, Home Science Department, WCC, Chennai, and also member in the Center for Women Studies. It is very good webinar, international webinar, very wanted to our society. Very long back, this type of seminar was conducted in Muthuram Government Arts College. After 8 years back, the same title is being conducted through online in this topic. It is very important topic for both the sex. Recently, the young people do not know anything about the opposite gender. Many evil happenings are occurring in our society. Therefore, the young people should know about what is gender sensitization. Gen- Generally, the gender, only two gender in our world. Everyone should understand about the opposite gender. இப்போ ரொம்ப அவசியமான ஒன்று இந்த டைட்டில். இது ரெண்டு இருபாலருக்கும் தேவையான டைட்டில். மேடம் சுனிதா அவர்கள் இந்த டாபிக்ல இப்போ பேச போறாங்க. அது பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ஸ் எல்லாருக்கும் ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லான ஒரு டாபிக். மேடம் அவர்கள் இந்த 4 கொஸ்டினுக்கு ஆன்சர் பண்ணி பேசுவாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். The basic question: what, why, how, and when. These are the 4 basic questions should be discussed, and I mean, it should give resolve these 4 questions. How to talk with the opposite gender? That is 1. When to talk with the opposite gender? Question number 2. Why to talk with the opposite gender? Question number 4. And what to talk with the opposite gender? When you complete are giving reply all these 4 questions, automatically the webinar comes to an end. The young people should also enthusiastic, should be also enthusiastic in hearing and following this total seminar. And at last, you have the interaction session. You can interact with the resources persons. I think it is a very good seminar conducted by Professor Ganga and followed by many others. And also, I congratulate Ganga Madam and next resource person and the organizing committee members who also work. Everyone asked uh, for bringing very great success to this web seminar. I congratulate everyone. Congratulate everyone. And this topic will reach a good destination at the end. Thank you for everyone. Thank you. Madam?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
I request Dr. P. Vimala to introduce our resource person.
Good afternoon to one and all. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Sunita Sagayam, MSc MPhil PhD, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, Member Center of Women's Studies, Women's Christian College, Chennai. Dr. Sunita Sagayam completed her UG, PG, MPhil and PhD from Women's Christian College. Hello, ma'am. Is it audible?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Sunita Sagayam completed her UG, PG, MPhil and PhD from Women's Christian College, Chennai, and has been working there as an assistant professor in the Department of Home Science since 2009. Her research focus has throughout been in nutrition in HIV infection. She previously worked as a senior nutritionist at YRG Center for AIDS Research and Education for 12 years, where she dealt with many gender issues associated with the HIV infection. She was also the site coordinator for the Chennai site of YRG Care at the AMFAR supported Treat Asia network in the Asia Public region. Dr. Sunita Sagayam has undergone a Fogarty AIDS International Training and Research Program at the Nutrition Infection Department, Tufts University School of Medicine, Boston, USA, and was selected to attend the Women's Global Health Scholars Program, sponsored by Fogarty International Center and hosted by UCSF San Francisco, California, USA. She has received 2 research grants from the National Institutes of Health, US for $80,000 and $250,000 respectively. Her research findings were presented in 18th international conferences, and she has authored and co-authored about 30 publications in index international journals. Dr. Sunita Sagayam has been a resource person for more than 30 training programs sponsored by the government and NGOs to train many physicians, nurses, nutritionists, healthcare workers, and people living with HIV/AIDS on nutritional aspects of HIV infection in Chennai and Hyderabad. She has also been a resource person for Action Aid and NIPCCD Bangalore. As a member of the Center for Women's Studies at WCC, she has helped organize programs for women from various socio-economic groups. Once again, I'll take an opportunity to welcome you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction.
Thank you, ma'am. Now you hand over the session to Dr. Sunita, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to express my sincere gratitude, Professor S. Marimuthu, Principal in Charge, Muthrangam Government Arts College, Vellore, the convener of this webinar, Dr. Ganga, the organizing committee of the Women's Development Cell, and Dr. Vishwanathan for giving me this privileged opportunity. I pray that this will be a fruitful and enriching experience for all of us. I'll now share my screen. Of late, the government has given all the colleges a mandate that Women's Development Cell should be instilled in all the colleges, and many programs should be conducted through the Women's Development Cell. So I think this webinar is also one such effort. This webinar, when I was thinking about this, I thought we have to talk about gender sensitization of the young minds. because many of the participants here are students, and some of us are teachers, or all of us, we are parents also. Parents, we are part of the society. So each one of us, whether be it a male or a female, should be sensitized towards gender equality, and the society is also evolving. So we need to understand the complexities of the problem, and we need to understand the solutions. So that's what I aim to do. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you certain pictures, and I want you to take a few seconds to observe all of that and whether you can identify these pictures. So these pictures, they represent the society that we are living in today. You can see people of different age groups. We can see 3 rape victims. We can see 1 victim of eve teasing. We can see a victim of acid attack. We can see dowry harassment cases. And we can see 2 cases where women were cheated, molested, and their pictures taken. So this is the kind of society that we are living in today. But to what extent has this affected us? We look at the news, it creates some sensationality for some time, and then after that, what happens? We forget it and carry on with our own lives. Why? Because these are people whom we don't know. This has occurred so far away from us. But what if such things happen close to us, to people whom we know? Would we have the same reaction? So should we allow these things to continue? So that is what we need to think about, and have that kind of an empathy while listening to this webinar. So I'd like to first talk about the realities of today's society. This slide shows you the types of violence against women according to the various stages of the life cycle. So in infancy, even before infancy, I would say feticide takes place. So though sex determination is considered to be a crime, there are many people who abort children if they are girls. So even if they are born a girl, in infancy itself, many children are killed. And female infanticide is very common, especially in the poorer sections of society and maybe in the villages. And then even when they are growing up, many young children, infants, are subjected to physical and psychological abuse. And sometimes when they have limited resources, male children get more preference than the girl children. When they grow up into a girlhood, many children are forced into child marriages. And female genital mutilation also is becoming common. And in many of the African countries, we see that girl children's genitals are mutilated. And they're also subjected to sexual and psychological abuse by their very close relatives and people whom they trust. And here also, as they grow up also, differential treatment is given to the food and the medical care that they can get. And of late, child prostitution and pornography is also on the rise. We heard that during this lockdown period, when people were not able to visit sex workers, pornography has become very common. And you can think about the agonies that these children would have gone through while these pornographic pictures were taken. And that has been on an increase nowadays. As children grow up and become adolescents and have boyfriends, they experience a lot of violence during dating and courtship. And many men take advantage of these girls who are just looking for love and some companionship. And incest or forced sex, sexual abusement at the workplace, in schools and colleges, marital rape if they are married very early, and trafficking of young girls is very common nowadays. And many young girl children go missing, and we have no idea where they go, and we are not even aware about the grim situation, the numbers of girl children who are being trafficked. And also forced pregnancy. Children who are, adolescent girls who are 16, 17, 18 years are getting pregnant before their body can attain the required physical maturity. Later, when they grow up again, when they are in their reproductive age, there is a lot of violence in marriage. Marital rape, dowry abuse happens. Many of late, we look into the news and we see that there are many women who are being killed and made to look like suicides. There's a lot of psychological abuse which women go through but silently bear. And when they go to the workplace, there also they face a lot of harassment and sexual abuse. So these are quite common. And especially women with either physical or a psychological disability are also easy targets for people to be abusing them. And elderly people also go through sexual, psychological, and physical abuse. About 3 days back, I think there was a 65-year-old woman who was molested by a very young guy, and when she raised an alarm, she was killed. So this is the kind of society that we are looking at in today. And if we have to change this kind of a situation, then we need to be sensitized towards gender equality. UNDP, United Nations Development Program, has come up with a gender social norms index. And below, if you can see this picture, this shows the way this index is calculated. So they have 4 dimensions: political, educational, economic, and physical integrity, and have many indicators for each of these dimensions. And based on that, this index is calculated. And this data has been collected from more than 75 countries, covering about 80% of the world's population. So it is a very representative index. And this shows that though we have made several progress in terms of gender equality, the gap has not been closed yet. And about 90% of men and women are said to hold some bias against women. So we see it's not only the men, but it's also the women. We know that most dowry harassment happens by the mother-in-law. The women are the one who ask for dowry. And also mother-in-law, daughter-in-law problems are quite common. So it's also not only the men, but also the women who need to understand, who need to allow women to grow and have an equal place in the society. And also this, according to this index, it says more than half of the men and women feel that men make better political leaders. So in recent times, we saw memes that are being circulated saying that countries which were headed by women have a lower rate of COVID, and they were able to manage it better. So, it is not true that women don't make great leaders, and even developed countries like America has not had a woman president at all. So, it's a common kind of a behavior that men and women have throughout the world. And also 40% feel that men make better business executives, and also men require the job more than women when jobs are scarce, like the situation that we are in today. And 28% have said that it is okay for a man to beat his wife, which is very sad. So all of these things need to be changed. There is some more data from India, which is called as a Gender Development Index. And also here also they have dimensions of health, empowerment, and labor market with many, many indicators. And through this, they have calculated the Gender Inequality Index. And it says India ranks a low of 122 of 162 countries on the 2018 Gender Inequality Index. So it fares very poorly. And India is also ranked from 95th out of 129 countries in the Global Gender Equality Index. And the Gender Development Index for 2018 shows that the males were educated for 8.2 years, whereas females were educated only for 4.7 years. And also the gross national capita per income was only 2,625, whereas it was 5 times more for the males. And the World Economic Forum has also released the Gender Gap Index for 2019, which had 153 countries studied. And it says that India has slipped. So compared to the previous years, now it has slipped to the 112th position. And it has slipped to 150th position on health and survival, 112th on educational attainment, and 149th in the economic participation. So it is said, they have concluded that there are very, very few economic opportunities for women in India. So Times of India sometime back came up with this poster saying that it is not a country for women, and they have compared data for 10 years. So from 1995 to 2015, they have taken data and calculated the percentage change. And you can see that cruelty by a husband or his relatives has risen 296%, close to 300%, which is like too much. As the society progresses, and we think that women are more empowered in this period of time, but we can see the kind of abuse that she goes through, the kind of violence that she goes through has increased in the 10 years from the period of 1995 to 2015. Also, all other cases also, like assaulting or outraging the modesty of the women, more than 200%, rape 150%, insult to the modesty of women is 85%, dowry death 64.2%, and all crimes together is an increase of 214.3. So we are talking about an evolving society. We say that many women are being empowered, many women are going to work, but what has changed? The gender equality has not come about. So so what are we going to do about this? So that is the reason why gender sensitization is important in today's time. So who or what fosters this gender inequality? The first place that children grow up in is the family. So when children see that there is inequality in the family, like the mother always cooking and taking care of the household chores, and the husband just going to the office and coming back, not sharing the household activities, that's the idea that these children grow up with. And if the child sees the father hitting the mother, then they think that is okay, and that's how they grow. The extended family members also are very important in playing, have a very important role in creating a gender equal situation in today's families. Then we see about schools and colleges. Earlier, the school started long back, had male only or female only schools, where the children don't have an opportunity to talk to the other gender and interact with them, to understand them. And so they come up with a different kind of a perception. Whereas nowadays, we have more and more of co-education schools and colleges. But we know that, in some colleges, we have heard that where even when they have co-education, boys and girls have different doors for entry, the different places in buses. They're not encouraged to talk to each other. So when you restrict people from doing, from a normal interaction with the other gender, with the other sex, then it becomes a problem, and they tend to develop their own inequality behaviors. So it is very important. So like our principal, sir, Professor Marimuthu said, he said, it is very important that we ask the questions, how should they talk? What should they talk? Why should they talk? These kinds of things can be brought about only by a healthy interaction between both the sexes. Society at large is also very important in creating this gender inequality. So even if within the family, we try to bring about gender equality, the people, our neighbors, our friends, they will come about and say, why are we challenging these roles? Why don't we conform to the society and just keep going ahead? So it is a big challenge for us to maintain gender equality in the society. And also our media and our ads. Many ads show a typical household where there is gender equality. I'm going to show you a picture. Like, I don't know if you have seen this Kinder Joy chocolates. So now it comes in pink color for girls and blue color for boys. So why should there be inequality in the kind of toys that they receive? So that so ads are like that. They show women in men's products, so that they think that the presence of a woman would sell those men's products. So this kind of a mentality is there in people who are even creating these ads. And definitely we have to talk about our Hollywood, Collywood, or Bollywood movies, where hero is shown indulging in highly objectionable and condemnable behavior, like teasing women, stalking her, troubling her until she falls in love. So the young children who are watching these kind of movies, they tend to form that it is okay to do that kind of things because it is their hero whom they idealize doing those kind of stalking behavior. So fostering of inequality, every one of us have a role to play in inequality. So therefore, if we have to change this unequal situation, then again, each one of us have to be sensitized and we have to play a role in creating a more gender equal society. So gender sensitivity is all about getting rid of wrong notions and perceptions, as well as learning to interact with the opposite sex. So whatever perceptions that we may have, whatever wrong notions that we have today has to be unlearned. And then we have to relearn about the right way of doing things. And the sooner this is learned and practiced, it is better for our society. So let me tell you the difference between sex and gender. Sex refers to a biological and physiological differences between men and women. So it is the anatomy, the body of a person which determines the sex, how they are born. And gender refers to the cultural and social differences between men and women. And for sex, there are two main categories, male and female, whereas in gender, we say masculine gender and feminine gender. And sex will not change with time and culture, but gender roles and expectations may vary over a period of time. And sex is created by the reproduction needs. That is, our humanity has to grow. And whereas gender is gender restrictions are created by social norms. And so therefore gender categorizations, norms can always change, and it is not stagnant. I talked about two sexes, the male and the female sexes, but we also have to keep in mind the third gender. When we are talking about gender sensitization, gender equality, we also have to recognize the third gender. The Supreme Court of India has recognized transgenders as a third gender in April of 2014. So it has taken such a long time for them to be actually recognized as a third gender. So transgender people have a gender identity or gender expression that differs from their sex that is assigned to them at birth. So they may have been born a boy, but their expression would be that of a girl. Or they would have been born a girl, but their gender expression would be that of a boy. So there are various terms that are associated with that. That itself is a huge topic. But a trans woman is a man who was assigned female at birth, and a trans woman is a woman who was assigned male at birth. You also would have heard other terms like eunuchs, hijras, aravani, koti, tirunangai. So these are all different forms of gender expression by these transgenders. So many transgenders face inequality. That is, the unequal treatment of these people in terms of work, school, society in general, and a general lack of understanding of these transgender people. So I remember an incident where I was walking on the road with some of my relatives, and we had an encounter with a transgender. And a young boy, maybe about 8 or 10 years old, asked his mother, who is that person? And the mother unfortunately said, they are thieves. So it really pained me because I have worked in the HIV field and I have interacted with people who are transgenders, and we have to understand them. So I explained to that small little kid, saying, they are not thieves. They are human beings like you and me. They are just born different. God has created them differently. So, we need to give them respect and recognize that they also require equality. So the sex of woman has been recognized long back. Still, we don't have that equality, whereas transgenders have received this recognition very lately. And so it takes a lot of sensitization for us to understand that they are special people. They are created just like you and me, and they also require the respect that we receive and we want to receive. So Justice K.S. Radhakrishnan, who was the judge who granted this recognition, has said, recognition of transgenders as a third gender is not a social or medical issue, but a human rights issue. And he also said they are citizens of India and they also have to be provided equal opportunity to grow. So, I also want to encourage each one of us to respect these people and to give them their due respect and not be judgmental in any way. So I want to explain some terms about what is gender equality, equity, or feminism. So gender equality means that women and men enjoy the same rights, resources, opportunities, and protection. So this is a definition given by UNICEF. And they have said that gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but it is a necessary foundation to lay for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. So if we need to, our country, our world to be peaceful and prosperous, we need to provide gender equality for all the three genders. So gender equity, on the other hand, is fairness of treatment of women and men according to their respective needs. Okay, it may include equal treatment or it may require more treatment so that all of them are on an equal footing to receive the rights, benefits, obligations, and opportunities. So if you look at the picture at the top right, you can understand the difference between equality and equity. So equality is providing all the three the same kind of equality. Okay, all of them have the same box. But on the right side, we see a small child. Even with that extra opportunity that is provided, he is not able to utilize that opportunity. So therefore, somebody has to forego their opportunity and give it to the person who is least affected, who is least oppressed, and give them a little more push so that they all three will be on an equal footing. So that is equity. So more than equality, I think we need more of equity in these times. So that is the reason why women are given a 33% reservation and they have a quota wherever there is an open competition between men and women. So therefore, we also have to understand that equality alone is not enough. Gender equity is also very important. And all of us would have heard about the term feminism. So this is a doctrine which advocates social, political, and all other rights of women equal to those of men. So you'd have heard people who are saying, I'm a feminist, or I belong to a feminist organization. So through these organizations, it brings about reforms on women's rights, their reproductive rights, their against domestic violence, the maternity leave. Earlier we had only 3 months of maternity leave, but now that's changed to 6 months. So all of that comes under feminism, equal pay, and to prevent sexual harassment and sexual violence. So these three I wanted you to understand before we proceed any further. So what are the objectives of this gender sensitization? I'm not able to remove this. Okay. Okay. So there are five objectives to this gender sensitization. So one is to raise awareness of gender equality concerns, which is exactly what we are doing here today now. We have to raise this awareness because many people don't even think that it is an issue, because we are a privileged lot. We have had these opportunities. If I am sitting here as a woman talking to so many people, then that means I have received some kind of empowerment because my parents gave that opportunity and I was able to make use of those opportunities. But there are many people who don't have that opportunity, and all of us have to be sensitized towards understanding the gender concerns of the society as a whole. Second objective is to create an enabling environment of gender justice. Okay, so wherever if you go to work, or if you're going to study, or if you're outside, everywhere there should be an enabling environment which has to be created. It cannot be created overnight. It has taken so long for even us to come out of our oppression and come to a level. So it will take some time. So this cannot be done by women alone, but it has to be a joint collaboration between men, women, our society, our families, and even our governments. So that is one other thing that we will be seeing later on in this webinar. Then the third objective is to bring about a modification of behavior of teachers and parents towards children. So that can have a positive effect in bringing about gender equality. So maybe we all as teachers or elders, we belong to maybe to a previous generation, and we have been brought about with certain kinds of perceptions, which we try to thrust on our children and our students. So it is very important that we have to modify our behaviors so that when we interact with children, when we bring up our children, we will bring them up in a gender equal society. The fourth objective is to instill empathy. So as I said earlier, empathy is putting the other, ourselves in others' shoes. So then, only then, when we identify with people who are don't have that gender equality, then we will be able to do something about it. And also, it has to help people examine their personal attitudes and beliefs and question the realities that they thought they know. So again, if we have to modify our behavior, first we have to examine our personal attitudes. What is my thought? What is my view? How do I behave? Do I have the capacity to bring about a gender equal society? If not, then I need to modify my behavior. So modification, you would have heard about knowledge, attitudes, and practices. So this webinar may change your knowledge, but it will not be complete unless we change our attitudes and then put those changes into practice. So if you look at this picture, do you notice anything strange? Sure, I know everybody will jump and say I've labeled it wrongly. So blue is for a boy and pink is for a girl, isn't it? That's how we've been brought about. But who gave these color designations? So this is a gender stereotype that we constantly associate the color blue with boys, and we associate with the color pink with girls. So what if it is opposite? What problem is it going to cause? Nothing. So gender stereotypes are the beliefs that people have about the characteristics of male and female. So the usual common gender stereotyping is men are more agentic. Agentic meaning they are the ones who are competent, they are ambitious, they are assertive, and they're competitive. Whereas women are termed to be more communal. So they have to take care of the children. They have that rearing habits. They are supportive, emotional, and they play a secondary role to the male members. So this is the general stereotype. But today, contemporary women view themselves as much more agentic than women of the past. So this is a change that is happening, and it has to change more. So this picture also shows the gender stereotypes. You see this picture at the bottom left. It shows a man who goes to work, a woman who takes care of the children and does all the housework together. And this is the ad I told you about, the Kinder Joy toy surprise. So it is blue colored Kinder chocolates will have these kind of toys which are suitable for boys, and the pink colored toy will have all the girly toys. So earlier we never used to have this. We had one. So we may either get a toy car or we may get a Barbie. So it doesn't matter what children get. They can play with both. So that will be a gender equal society. We need not gender stereotype based on even toys. And if you see at the bottom right, you will see the various types of jobs that they assign women are suitable for or men are suitable for. So this gender stereotyping is also changing, albeit very slowly. And even the kind of behaviors that we may have are stereotyped. So men are said to be more logical, rational, aggressive, strategic, independent, whereas women are said to be having a more emotional, intuitive, submissive. So you would have seen when a woman is driving the car, the man, if he's driving behind, will constantly keep honking because they think that we are very slow drivers, we don't know how to drive, and then we have to move aside and let them, give them space so that they can move. So that's the something that I see every day on the road. And sometimes it really angers, when even when there is no space to move our car, they will keep honking and expect us to move and give way for the male to drive past me. So they think that women drivers don't know how to drive rightly, and so many stereotypes still exist in our society. So if you are a girl, if you are born a girl, that does not mean that she will automatically be able to do all the housework and take care of others. Or having a boy's body does not ensure that they will be fearless, intelligent, and strong. You would have heard about mothers telling the girls, you learn all the household work because otherwise nobody will marry you, or you will have problems in your marital home, and telling boys, why are you crying like a girl? So these kind of stereotypes are commonly, it just comes from the tip of our tongue because we are so tuned to this kind of a gender stereotype. So these qualities are actually learned and taught to us at different stages in our lives, within the family, schools, community, and so on. And it is also one's upbringing that determines how one grows and what one becomes. Very amusing will be the matrimonial ads that you see. So it always tall, fair, and slim, and domestically trained, highly educated for the girls, whereas for boys it will be tall, dark, handsome, and a well paid job, and those kind of adjectives are very, very common gender stereotypes that we see in society. So all these have developed in us because we have learned all this from all around us, and also our upbringing determines what we become. But I would say kids are just kids. So whether they are girls or they are boys, they can be funny, they can be caring, they can be embarrassed, they can be scared, they can be loud. So you would have heard girls should not be loud, they should not laugh loudly, they should not, many things are there that girls are restricted from doing. But actually, both of them are born same. They have the same emotional characteristics, but only how we bring them up makes the difference to whether they are masculine gender or feminine gender. And we are the ones who create that kind of a distinction. So gender stereotypes tend to change. This is in a lighter vein. I found, in 1920, they say that being a more decided and stronger color, pink is more suitable for the boy. So that's what they said in 1920. And blue, which is a more delicate and dainty color, is prettier for the girl. But now it has completely changed, and we say pink is associated with the girls and blue is associated with the boy. And you would have heard about cheer girls. Now, cheer girls very common in IPLs or soccer matches. So earlier, they say in the 1920s and 30s, boys were the ones who were cheerleaders, and slowly women were included. And now it's mostly the women who are cheerleaders or cheer girls. And also, it was very amusing to know that high heels were actually invented by Persian soldiers and adopted by elite European men around 1600. And a century later, they found that it became women's fashion. So gender stereotypes can change. It need not remain stagnant. We can bring about a change. So what about our evolving society? So in the 21st century, we have seen a lot of shift in the gender roles. So new family structures. So we have moved on from a joint family to a nuclear family situation, and education. More and more girls are being educated. We have more job opportunities. Media plays a very important role, and many other factors together have brought about this evolution in society towards a better change. The societal role theory says that gender stereotypes stem from men's traditional role as breadwinners and women as homemakers. So now these trends are constantly being challenged, and they are being changed. So earlier we had the two-parent heterosexual family. like the societal role theory, where men were the providers and the women were the homemakers. But now in many places, not only in industrial countries, even in other countries, most women pursue jobs outside, and many fathers are also involved in childcare. So this is a welcome change. So as roles have changed, stereotypes should also change. So we will see each stereotype in various, in children and adolescents, and how the gender stereotypes are learned and how it is evolved. So first, if we see even infants within the first year of life, they can differentiate between males and females. You would have, if you have handled little children, you will say, some children are very attracted towards male members of the family. So when they are crying, if a male member handles them, they become quiet. So they were able to identify between the male and female in the first year of life itself. Then later, as they grow, they start forming their own gender stereotypes as they watch the family members and the others in the society. So when they start going to the preschool, in the preschool age, they pick up these clues from older siblings. If they see, if they have a brother and they see them using a bat and a ball, then automatically this girl also will want to play with the bat and the ball, if the parents allow. But usually what we do is we give girls appropriate toys for the girl child and boy appropriate toys for the boy child. So this appropriate is what we are trying to change. And when they are 2.5 to 3 years, they show some knowledge of having activities that are associated with each sex. So and if they have more elderly girls in the family, like sisters in the family, then these girls, if they will pick it up from their older siblings. And if they have more boys in the family, elder boys, then they will tend to identify themselves more with the boy characteristics than standing out as a girl, because they want to have conform to the to what their siblings are doing. So it is very important to understand that what children are developing is based on what they see, what they observe, and what kind of an environment they are brought about in. Continuation, when they reach elementary school, we see that this stereotypes is broadened into sports, the subjects, and personality traits. You would have heard people saying that boys are generally very good in maths. So when they listen to this constantly, when they heard that boys are very suitable for maths and they have a very have an aptitude towards math, slowly girls will say, maybe I'm not good in maths. They develop that tendency. And also they say that girls are better at reading compared to boys. So if this is what they hear, then that is what they become. When they grow up as adolescents, now this is the period of conflict, as all of you know, and they have two opposing forces. One is their cognitive flexibility. In their mind, they know that boys and girls are equal, and they can do what boys can do. Girls can play cricket, girls can play football, girls can play with toy cars. So they know that the cognitive ability is there, but then they also have another opposing force of the peer pressure or conforming to the stereotypes. Say, for example, if a girl wants to play football and no other girl wants to play with her, then automatically she has to abandon that idea and conform to the stereotypes of the other girls or other people in the society. So parents also usually want their children to conform to the stereotypes and not go against it. So research suggests that these gender stereotypes are in children are promoted by parents and teachers. So what is the role of parents? So as I told you earlier, starting from toys, you give certain action figures or sports equipment for their sons, but kitchen sets and dress up toys are all given to the daughters. So also parents influence the child's occupational aspirations. So you would have heard that a teaching job is very good for a girl because they are in a very protected environment. They can go in the morning and come back. They will not have to work late nights. So when these kinds of thoughts are constantly instilled in children, their occupational aspirations is also determined by these kind of stereotypes. Another example is girls can be nurses, whereas it's not good for a boy to be a nurse. Or the subject that I am dealing with, home science, is more suitable for a girl than boy. So we have a few handful of men who are home scientists. So these aspirations are all suggested by parents. And also, in many parts of the world where there is limited financial resources, parents have a preference for son. And when they have one son and a daughter, preference is given for the son in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, and all other opportunities more than the girl. So many places I have heard that if they have an egg, it's given to the boy and not to the girl, because they feel that boys have to be more strengthened compared to their daughters. So not only in the lower socioeconomic group, but even among educated children. I know a family where this mother was telling me it's only a girl child, so it's not important that she puts a lot of effort into studying, so she constantly absents from school, so it's okay because she's a girl. But the boy needs to study well, he needs to get into a good profession. The girl, anyway, she's going to be married off. It's better to get her married into a good and financially sound family, so that her life will be settled. So even among the educated society, I think this is what parents feel. And also, this is very interesting. So parents may encourage athletic participation in their daughters, but very few parents encourage doll play in the boys. So if it's a masculine stereotyped activity, it is okay for the girls to participate in that. But if it is a feminine stereotyped activity, it is not okay for the boys to indulge in that. So the boys are not allowed into the kitchen. They're not allowed to cook. They're not allowed to do any household jobs because they are male. So that kind of a distinction or that kind of a stereotyping still exists today in our society. So gender equality actually has to start at home. So boys and girls have to be brought about equal, sharing all the chores and responsibilities. And in today's world, when women are also working outside the house, managing household responsibilities should be shared by not only the husband, but also the children. And equally, because learning these kind of life skills is also very important, be it a girl or a boy. So what role do parents play in bringing about gender equality? How can they achieve this? So this is for all of us, for us as parents or as teachers, even if you are a teacher, you may be a parent. So parents should treat both their sons and daughters as equal. Okay, so there should not be any distinction. If you want to give an egg, give both of them, or don't give both of them. Okay, so that kind of an equality should be brought about. So I was listening to a talk show in a popular TV, and these girls were demanding dowry. I'm sure many of you would have known. And they say, I'm asking for a dowry because preference was given in education for my brother. So they spent on education for my brother. So why not spend on my marriage? So that is the question now girls are asking, because they don't want to tolerate this kind of an inequality. So as parents, we should be very careful to treat our sons and daughters as equals. And even if you are students, it will hardly be a matter of time before you head a family. And when you head a family, it is very important that you treat the sons and daughters as equal. And the next point says, instead of telling their daughters to behave properly, mothers should teach their sons to respect all women as equal. Yes, mothers have to teach their sons to respect all women as equal. But I would also add that parents have to teach their daughters to also behave properly. Because here we are not talking about the women taking up the upper hand, but both the men and the women have to be on an equal platform. So if you want boys to behave properly, the girls also have to be behaving properly. So it is also important that children should grow up seeing women in their homes being respected by the men in their family. So if they see women being abused verbally, psychologically, or physically, then that is what they are also going to do. If they are male children, they will think it is okay for men to beat the women. And if they are women or if they are girl children, they will think that, I have to compromise, I have to bear with this kind of a physical or an emotional or a psychological abuse. So that that kind of a situation has to change in the families. All household females should stop telling the young girls of their families that they learn to cook, serve the husband and in-laws, and always adjust. So this is before marriage, I'm sure all girls are given this kind of an advice: adjust, compromise. Okay, so that need not be. If the men are also cooperative and give that kind of an equal platform for women, this kind of a situation will not arise. And a growing girl should be made to feel like should not be made to feel that she has less access to choice of freedom than her male counterpart. So earlier, that girls have to be home by 6 o'clock, still very commonly practiced in many households. And so that limits her freedom. She's not able to take up any extracurricular activities or go for other classes to pursue her hobbies or passion, whereas boys can come in anytime they like. So whatever rules apply for the girls has to apply for the boys also. So that is the kind of a gender equal situation that we have to aim for in our houses. And also children have to be taught about gender good touch and bad touch, because in these days that girl children are not safe, and it is very important that children are educated. Sex education is given to children, and this common this formula of good touch and bad touch has to be taught to children, where it is okay to touch, where it is not okay to touch. And there's another thing which is now trending, which is don't touch. Okay, if they feel uncomfortable, make sure to tell your children don't touch. And there are also tips for some parents, to keep their children safe. So you have to teach children not to give out personal information to strangers, because now again all children have their smartphones in their hand for online classes, and there are ever so often so many pop-ups coming and asking for personal information. So children should be advised that they should not give personal information to strangers, or not to chat with strangers on an. And don't leave children unsupervised in public places. Use filters to block inappropriate sites online. Build your child's self-esteem with lots of love, praise, and attention. I think that is very important. The more you tell a girl child, that she is loved, even if there is a mistake, even if she's in a problem, she will have the confidence to come and tell the parents what she's been going through. Many times when, as parents, we shout at the children, and we discourage them from talking to girls, or we admonish them for their wrongdoings, they will not be feeling comfortable to come and share those things with the parents. So we have to create an enabling environment, and tell the child that it's okay. Sometimes even if they make a mistake, that these mistakes can be corrected, and that as parents you are always there for them, and you can change any kind of a situation. Okay, so if assure your child that if someone tries to hurt your child, the child is never to blame, but it is the perpetrator, or the person who's trying to harm is the one who is to blame. So now next we'll move on to the role of teachers. Teachers also play a very important role in the upbringing of a child. So, if they have been brought about in a very gender stereotypical society, then it is very difficult for them to change. And so they have to undergo gender sensitivity training, which has to be made mandatory. And this training will enable them to disseminate that a desirable attitude, which is based on mutual trust and respect between the boys and the girls. So the NCERT has come up with a training manual for teachers, and it's a very interesting workbook, and it is available on the net. You can download and use it, and it has 3 volumes, and it covers the entire spectrum of gender equality and empowerment. So this can be utilized by the teachers. So in the classroom, what are we going to do? We have to challenge these gender stereotypes. So if you have a co-education class, then you have to say that gender stereotypes are not true, they are not fair, they are prone to change, and we can change it. And we have to dissociate character traits from gender. Like, for example, earlier I said men are more assertive, they are more competitive, while women are more caring. So these character traits have to be completely dissociated from the gender. And sometimes when you have a quiet classroom, we call a boy to help you carry something. But we have to remember that girls are just as capable, and they would not like to be left out. And your educational material also should be gender equal, and not sometimes we mention boys. We can mention boys dancing or reading, and girls playing with toys, cars, and soccer, so that they will understand that it's okay for boys to dance or girls to play with toy cars. So that kind of a enabling environment should be brought about in the classroom. And also we have to teach children vocabulary. If you are facing uncomfortable situations, how to move away from that kind of a situation. Sometimes they are solicited to become a girlfriend or to become a partner. So if they are not comfortable in that situation, how they can navigate out of that situation has to be taught about. So this can be also brought about by role plays, where you create some situation and ask the girls and the boys to role play how they would deal with that particular situation. Okay, and also schools and colleges have to promote an enabling environment where both the sexes can have a healthy interaction and foster mutual respect. Because by segregating them, you are only worsening the situation and not making a gender equal situation. And also, you can promote and display all the contributions that the men and women have achieved. So, Kalpana Chawla has become a role model or an inspiration for many women to achieve and reach heights. So like that, our Kiran Bedi or our Indira Gandhi. So many people are there who have achieved great heights. So they can be an inspiration for women to come out of their shells and achieve and dream big. Schools can also do a gender audit of their libraries to see how they promote gender equality through books. And textbooks also should be reviewed from a gender lens to make sure that there is a gender equal content, and that gender equal content will bring about equality and mutual respect. So this is a gender sensitivity module for children, and this has been brought about by the National Commission for Women, and this also has a lot of activities and for children, where they will be, if they do these kind of workbooks, they will understand gender equality better and will be sensitized in a better fashion. So this person called Dr. Renu Golwalkar, who's the head of gender and from Care India, has given some tips. It says it's not only about numbers. So it's not that you have equal number of girls and boys in your school or your classroom, but it is about how much of opportunities are available for the boys and the girls. So that should be equal, and not only the number of students that you are having. And also you should avoid gender negative roles for any form of stereotyping. So all activities, all opportunities should be available for both boys and girls, and they should be allowed to choose what they want to do. And integrating life skills is very important, because boys don't get that opportunity at home to learn certain life skills. Like earlier, I know in schools, a lot of sewing or small cooking, knitting, all of those were taught in schools. But nowadays, we give more importance only to the academic aspects. So if life skills are integrated into our school curriculum, it will allow for both boys and girls to learn these life skills, so that they will understand the difficulty in each one of these in these kind of activities, and learn good mutual respect and assertive skills. Then also, schools should provide a safe and a secure environment for boys and girls. It should not be an unsafe environment. So there should be open places where boys and girls can interact in the open, and have a healthy discussion, and not quiet places where they will retreat into. So what is the role of government? Okay, government has done many steps. They have revised the curriculum, and they're trying to make it gender equal curriculum, and many modules are being given for the teachers to make them gender sensitive. They have in-service training programs. School assessment programs also need to incorporate gender sensitive parameters, and also physical education classes should include training in self-defense for the girls, because we are living in a very unsafe society and girls have to defend themselves. And very interestingly, Maharashtra has done away with gender stereotypical books, which in June 2019, and it's mandatory that all of these governments will revisit these books and bring about a gender equal curriculum. Okay, so I'm not going into the details of this slide. I just wanted to let you know that this Sustainable Development Goals, which is given by the UN, the 5th goal is actually to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And these are the targets. They have 10 targets for each of these goals. And it tries to bring about gender equality, to prevent discrimination, to give equal wages, to give opportunities, everything. So so it is not that the government is not doing anything. There is a lot of work that is being done by several aspects of the government. And so we also need to be proactive in ensuring that these targets are achieved. Okay, so it's a role of men. Without men, I think we cannot achieve gender equality. You know, we need both hands to clap. So on one side are the women, the other side are the men, and both need to cooperate and work together to create a gender equal society. So Jackson Katz, who's an inspirational speaker, says we need more men, okay, with guts and courage and the strength with moral integrity to break our complicit silence and challenge each other and stand with women and not against them. So men have to stand with women. We have to stand shoulder to shoulder to actually make this gender equality a reality. And General Ban Ki-moon, who was the UN secretary, says men must teach each other that real men do not violate or oppress women, and that a woman's place is not just in the home or the field, but in schools and offices and boardrooms. Okay, so men play a really vital role, and we cannot say all men are against women. There are a lot of men who provide lots of opportunities for women to grow and to create a gender equal society. The White Ribbon Campaign is the world's largest movement of men and boys working together to end violence against women and girls. So this is a very healthy thought. It's a very encouraging thought as well. So so men wear these white ribbons and then they declare that they will never commit, condone, or remain silent about violence against women. So I think, you know, along with our Red Ribbon Club in our schools and colleges, we need to have the White Ribbon Campaign, and, you know, so that boys and men can take this kind of an oath. So what is the solution? Are we trying to reverse the gender roles? Is gender role reversal a solution? So do you want, girls, do you want to tie the thali on a man? Or do you want to change the girl viewing ceremony into a boy viewing ceremony? Or do you want to just sit and read the papers like how your husbands did and allow him to do all the household chores? So is that a solution? Looks funny. Some people would say it would have been nice if this happens, but is that a solution? Okay, but we are aiming at a gender equal society, a society built by men and women as equal partners. So just because women were harassed or women were oppressed, it does not mean that we have to take an upper hand and suppress women, suppress men or oppress them. It's not like it's our turn that we do this. It is very important that we create a gender equal society. So you have to allow individuals, whether it be a boy or a man or a girl or a woman, to choose the lifestyles irrespective of their gender and without being bound by these stereotypical gender roles. And a society where men and women can participate together in politics, at the workplace and at home, will always lead to an exciting and fulfilling lives. And this is what we need to aim for. I also wanted to touch a little bit about sexual harassment. There's a lot of women students here, I know, on this webinar. So, I wanted to talk about this and give you some tips about that. So it is actually the person's mindset or his personality that actually causes this sexual harassment. So it is mainly a display of the dominance on the part of the man, and many men harass or cause do eve teasing just to say that they want to put a woman in her place. So that is the kind of an attitude that men have, and so this has to be changed. So however competent, intelligent, successful or educated a woman may be, a man, not all, okay, but majority of the men want to look at her as a sex object in public, and that's how a woman has to endure it. So I'm sure all women, would have experienced harassment at one stage or the other. Maybe traveling to the workplace in buses, in trains, even staring, even staring at a woman, which makes her uncomfortable, is said to be stalking, and they can be booked for it. And so there is a lot of sentences that can be given, where men can be arrested and they can legal action can be taken against them. What we have to do is we have to be aware about all these laws, and we need not take this sexual harassment or this eve teasing at just as that. We can actually challenge that, and we can put the people who are perpetrators, we can take them to task actually. So sometimes we see blackmails, these Pollachi case and Nagarkoil case, are all based on blackmails. So they say, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'll tell your parents. If you break up with me, I'll post those pictures everywhere. So in this context, I would like to say, you have to be very careful about the persons whom you choose. Though we say, it is teach the boys to be responsible and change their behavior, I already said that women also must be very careful. It will take some time for us to have this 50-50 gender equal society. Until then, we have to be very careful and conduct ourselves in an appropriate manner, and not to cross the limits. In HIV, we say, if you want to prevent yourself from HIV, follow the ABC pattern. So A is abstinence. So as far as possible, you may think I'm old-fashioned, but abstinence can actually save you from a lot of trouble. So what do you do when you receive a blackmail like this? Be very bold. Okay, even if you have made a mistake, it's okay. Mistakes can be corrected. So be bold. You can call the police on the hotline number 100, or I'm going to show you some other helpline numbers, and you can boldly tell them what is happening. If you have a lawyer you can trust, or a women's organization, who will be sensitive and supportive, please talk to them and file a civil case. Don't let people who are blackmailing you take the upper hand. Also, you can neutralize that threat. Okay, if they are saying, I will tell your parents, I will post your pictures, make sure that you go and tell your parents before they do it, so that the threat will be completely neutralized. Okay, and if those pictures are ones that are bothering, please take the help of cybercrime officials. They are very supportive to these kinds of threats that women receive, and they will be able to help you. Also, have a good support system. Have somebody to counsel you. Your parents can be a good support system. Your friends can be good support system. Counselors. There are lots of counselors who are available, psychologists. So you can seek their help. You need not suffer, by under this blackmail. You need not take your own life. We see a lot of young women committing suicide. Please remember, suicide is not an option. You have to live. You have to face the situation, and I assure you that you can overcome any of these situations by properly handling it. So there are a lot of sections which are there to which you can invoke if these kinds of crimes happen against you. So the first one is violation of privacy. So if you're trying on a new dress and then an employee has a camera in the dressing room and then they blackmail you, this is a violation, and this can be booked under this section 66E. So you can take charge. And obscene electronic material should not be transmitted. There is a section for that. Sexually explicit act, like filming a sexual act is considered under this, and that is also liable for punishment and imprisonment up to 7 years. So be aware about all this. Be sensitized towards your rights and your responsibilities. So these are some of the resources which you can resort to in case you feel threatened. There's a child helpline, there's a women's helpline. There is a women's helpline in Tamil Nadu State's Health Helpline. Suicide prevention. If you need somebody to talk to anonymously, you can call these Jeevan suicide prevention and also these numbers. And there's a sexual harassment complaints website for complaints online. You can do that also. So you can take down this email ID. This URL, shebox.nic.in. If you go into it, you can appropriately register your complaints. So thank you for your patient listening. As Mother Teresa said, together we can do great things. Maybe it will look like it's moving at a very slow snail's pace, but definitely it will move. Our society will change. Our society will bring about a gender equal society. So therefore, we need to be positive and we need to slowly and steadily work towards it. So Kofi Annan said gender equality is critical to the development and peace of every nation. So it is also important for nation building. And gender equality, freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated in all forms of oppression. So they need not undergo physical, emotional, psychological oppression. So we need to be emancipated from all of these kind of oppressions. And achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men. As I told you, we need both sides of this party, girls and boys. It's everyone's responsibility. That's what Ban Ki-moon has said. And I also, please also remember that when we are talking about these two sexes, we also need to remember the transgenders and give them the respect and equality for them also. Just as you and me require a little help, a little equity and a little empathy, they also require. Most importantly, don't be judgmental in any situation, because you cannot actually walk in somebody else's shoes. So what they face is very different from what you face. So help each other, try to build each other, and let's have a gender equal society. Thank you so much.
Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I am Geeta, Department of Physics, Muthurangamam Government Arts College, Assistant Professor.
Yes,
shall I ask some question, ma'am, on behalf of participant?
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, one question from Devasena. Apart from education, yoga, karate, arts like Govalan, what must a woman teacher or professor do to protect a girl child?
Yeah, as I said, government is thinking of including karate in or self-defense techniques in schools also, so that the girls will be empowered. They will have the courage, because many girls work late nowadays and come home late. So they will have the confidence that when they have some self-defense skills, that they will be able to adequately handle the situation. And as teachers, as I told you, when we are working in a girls' college, we need to, give the girls the confidence and sensitize them towards the society that we are living in, and to bring about gender equality. So I think these kind of webinars also, the efforts that are taken by colleges to actually sensitize many people on gender equality, and that's exactly what teachers are doing. And I also showed you how we can bring about gender equality in a co-education college and what teachers can do.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Another question from Priya. Recent days, girls were facing cyber crimes with or without knowing. How can we protect or save them?
Yes. So actually in our college also, we have had seminars from cybercrime experts to come in and talk to girl students about what they need to do and how they need to proceed. So that's why I just gave a small gist about how we can, go about. I don't know whether this question was asked earlier itself, but I think that's what I have showed. Sorry. Yeah, I have showed all the helplines that they can reach out to, and definitely the cybercrime department is very active, and they can do a lot in helping girls to overcome these threats from the cyber crimes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Next question, ma'am.
Yes,
From Manasa. How important is sex education in a school and college setting? How can a teacher or professor educate students relevant to present scenario on gender inclusive sex education?
Yes, sex education is now, it is there in the curriculum, definitely, but I'm not sure teachers are able to handle it. So that is also very important, because openly talking about sex is not common in our society. And teachers also have a hesitation to talk about this kind of details in class. So, and also sometimes when as teachers, when we go to class, our more focus is on completing the portions. So we can have value education in our colleges. We have value education where these kind of sex education is taught to all the students. We can have these kind of conferences, gender sensitive workshops, and like I showed you, these workbooks are really great, especially for small children. They can be we have to definitely allot time in our college time, so that we can give these workbooks for these students, allow them to work in groups, and then to get back and have a healthy discussion. So that will definitely go a long way in bringing about gender equality among the children. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Next question, ma'am.
Yes.
Shibi, from Shibi. What is the right age to educate them about good and bad touch and give them sex education?
Okay, good touch and bad touch can be done even in preschool children. So so even very young children, as soon as they know to talk, you can tell them. It's usually the swimsuit. They say whatever is covered, wherever your body is covered, nobody is allowed to touch. Or if it makes her uncomfortable in any way, wherever, even if the cheeks are pinched, if the child feels uncomfortable, then that is a bad touch. Then the child should say don't touch. So they can practice at home, even at the preschool age. Preschool age is when they will actually go out of their houses. So at that time itself, they can be taught. And they can have role plays where somebody can touch them and ask them if whether this is a good touch or a bad touch. So in small playway methods, they can be educated. So I think as young as preschool age, they can be taught about this. And what time to start sex education? Actually, school age. Slowly, in biology classes, we can talk about, initially we can talk about gender. Okay, we can talk about male, female. We can talk about how they're equal, how whatever boys can do, the girls also can do. And so we can try to burst this myth of gender stereotyping in the school itself. And also, when you allow the children to mingle and have common activities for them in school, now it need not be an explicit sex education as such, but it can be, unknowingly the children will learn. Okay, and recently I saw a video. It was circulated on Facebook. I'm sure many of you would have seen that. This was in response to the George Floyd case. And this video showed a teacher's role in alleviating this racism. So that teacher actually split the class into two groups and said one group will be a black group and another group will be the white group. And so how they are treated, okay, because when they asked children, they said this group is dumb, they don't know anything. So the children have already developed that stereotypes. And she said actually, if this group of children take up take their turn, and if they feel how they are being stigmatized, how they are being excluded, if they understand that using role play, then they will never do it again. So then, that was an excellent video. So as teachers, we can have small activities for children in every class, according to the age, and slowly teach them this equality. So when they learn it at that younger age itself, then I'm sure that we very soon, when today's generation grows, we will have a better gender equal society. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Next question from Sabapati. Gender disparity comes with the patriarchal family system because it acts as a male-dominated society. What is your opinion about that?
Yes, it has been a patriarchal society. It has been because men have been working so long, and women have always played the role of a caregiver. So that's what we are trying to change. So we don't want it to either to be a patriarchal society or a matriarchal society. It's not that men should take an upper hand or the woman should take an upper hand. Both of us should be sharing the work equally, and we don't need any of those. We don't need a patriarchal society or a matriarchal society. We should have an equal society. That's what we are trying to aim.
Okay.
It will change. It takes long time to change, but it will change.
Yes, ma'am. Next question, ma'am.
Yes.
From Kishore. Our students are mostly from rural areas, but still gender discrimination is strong in the families, as you said, ma'am. When as we teachers try to explain them, it is still a challenge for us. How could we handle them, this situation, ma'am?
Okay. So, yes, I agree that everybody cannot be changed. Everything cannot be changed overnight. But, why girl children are not liked is because of the costs that are associated with the girl child. It's mostly to do with the dowry and all the money that they have to give for a girl's marriage. So that is why they refuse to spend money on the girl's education and those kind of any kind of things that the girl needs. Okay, so that's the basis. So when this dowry system and the other evils, social evils, are reduced, then automatically the preference for the girl child will increase. Also, the government has taken several steps, like they say, they have free education for the girl child. They're given cycles, they're given free notebooks, they're given many things are being provided by the government, so that the girl child will also be educated and they will not be a liability for the family. Okay, and also when they get married, the girl child is given gold thali, and when they have a child, that some amount of money is given for them. So the government is taking every efforts to make sure that parents don't consider girl children as a liability. Okay, so this message has to be ingrained, and lots, like we have, if we are talking about villages, but I'm sure that even in our urban society, many of us are not having a gender equal society. Okay, so so why are we having all these webinars and seminars and conferences? To sensitize us. So similarly, sensitization programs at their level is also necessary. So what you teach in class also has to be translated to the community. The parents also need to be sensitized. So maybe one day you can have some kind of a role play in a village, and you can sensitize those people also. It's easier said than done, I know for sure, but definitely we can do something to actually bring about changes.
Ma'am, next question, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
From Kishore Krishna. In gender sensitization, does morality have its role? If so, how? Please explain us, ma'am.
Okay. Morality, talking about morality, gender equality, they're all interrelated. The morality varies from person to person. Okay, what I consider moral may not be moral for another person. Okay, so this morality is influenced by various factors about our upbringing, our family values, our religion, our society that we live in, and so many other things. It's a very complex topic by itself. So yes, morality does exist in gender equality. We need to express those also. Depends on each person. Okay, so each one of us have varied values. So gender equality, we are talking about bringing. We can dissociate or we can include moral values.
Thank you, ma'am. No more question, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ganga, ma'am. Ganga, ma'am. Hello, Ganga, ma'am. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll continue. It is my
Hello.
privilege. Hello.
Ma'am, GG ma'am.
Ma'am, சொல்லுங்க ma'am. Question இருக்கா?
ஆமா ஒரு question இருக்கு.
Okay, you can continue.
Okay. Ma'am, one more question from a participant from YouTube.
Yes.
Are we bringing up male child in the right perspective, especially a one child family, to respect girls in the modern society?
Are we bringing up depends on each family as such, isn't it? I don't know what aspects they're asking, but whatever, whether it's a single child or they're brought up with siblings, boy children have to be sensitive towards the problems and needs of the women, and they have to understand that the equity or the empathy has to be created. Not only with regards to gender equality, but even other social causes also. So whether it's a girl child or a boy child, we need to help them understand that all are equal, and all of them have the same opportunities, and we cannot deny the opportunities which others are entitled to. It's a human right. So whether they're boys or girls, we're all human beings. That has to be taught to all the boys or girls.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Arvi, ma'am, anything else?
No.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Vote of thanks. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Women's Cell Muthrangam Government Art College, Vellore, for the national webinar on gender sensitization of young minds in an evolving society. At the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Sunitha Sagayam, Assistant Professor of Home Science, Member Center for Women's Studies, WCC, Chennai, for sparing her valuable time as a resource person of this national level webinar and highlighting the gender sensitization of young mind. It is an important indication of the society. I take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to Professor S. Marimuthu, Principal in Charge, Muthrangam Government Arts College, Vellore, for helping us to organize this national level webinar. Our special thanks to our convener, Dr. T.K. Ganga, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, for organizing this national level webinar. Also, I thank all the members of Women's Cell, and special thanks to Professor R. Vishwanathan, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, for constant supporting this national level webinar. Finally, I thank you all the participants to participate this national level webinar. Thank you all once again. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I personally thank each and every one of you for joining us today and having made this webinar a grand success. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.